showing up. Tonight is the City of Hendersonville Finance Committee, January 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Close to 6 p.m., as the mayor likes to say. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves to those who want to participate in the meeting, who are on the board at this point. We'll start to the far left. Introduce yourselves.
I'm not here. I'm Mark Skidmore, Alderman of Ward 1, and very gracious Vice Mayor. The board allowed that this year, and thank you very much for that. I'm here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel Collins, Ward 5. I'm also not actually on this committee.
Tamara Ingersoll, Finance Director.
Mayor Jamie Clary.
Alderman Mark Bergdorf.
Alderman Mark Evans, Ward 6.
You're good, sir.
Now
they heard me.
Okay. Alderman Karen Dixon, Ward 4.
Terry Goodwin, Alderman, Ward 4.
Eddie Robertson, Ward 6.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you showing up. One of the things we do want to go ahead and do is approve the minutes. Does anyone have any questions regarding the last minutes, January 14th, 2025 special call meeting?
You need to accept the agenda first.
Did I not? Okay. May we go ahead and accept the agenda as noted? Any changes you want to make to the agenda? Come on, come on.
I accept the agenda.
So moved. No, you go ahead. This is your seat. You go ahead and do it. So the agenda is accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bergdorf, for covering for me. Sorry I was late all.
No worries.
You're on item number 3.
Thank you.
The minutes when you.
May I have my cup?
Please.
I'm like Jamie spreading out.
All right. Item number 3 on the agenda is the minutes from January 14th. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
So, second.
Any changes on there that you saw?
Nothing.
No.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, passed unanimously. Any public comments?
There is one.
Yes, there's one.
We have one. Should I read the rules?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read the rules on public comments. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comments shall be limited to 5 minutes per individual, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's myself, not to the other aldermen, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address the issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those who differ with differing views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. Okay. We have Jeffrey Brewer of 105 Masters Way. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jeffrey Brewer, Ward 5, 105 Masters Way, Hendersonville, and I just wanted to speak in support of the proposed pay raises. I believe it's been very important that we get a massive correction for our police department for pay raises across the board, and if we can't get it to the right spot, I'm worried that we're going to be losing more members of our department. There's been lots of people I've been told that have left over the last even 12 months for other agencies for higher pay, and better benefits in a respect, and I believe that if we can't make it right, we're just going to keep on this hamster wheel of losing people and having to train more and hire more. I did research in 2021 about the cost to replace a police officer. And in 2021, the cost was almost $80,000. And that's from the date that they turned in the application to the date they were working the road as a working officer. and it's all their training and everything they have to go through. And that cost has only gone up in the last 4 years. I would estimate it's over $100,000 to replace just one officer. And when we're losing officers to neighboring jurisdictions for, $5,000 to $10,000 more money a year, it's a draining draining the city's coffers just on playing the retention game. So I live in the city. If you have to raise taxes for my property, then go ahead. But you have to raise the wages with it. So that's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those. At this time, we only had one person speaking, but was there anyone else that wanted to speak?
The committee discussed these two.
I'm sorry?
Said committee should discuss.
Do we want to allow others to speak if they wanted to?
Yes.
This is a pretty important
Well,
issue.
we did before you arrived. I did ask if anyone else wanted to sign up to speak.
Did you?
for- Yes, I did, but we can, what do you think? Open it up to the floor?
Sure.
Okay. We can open up the floor.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone, so I think we
No.
can move on.
Okay.
All right. Item 4 is ordinances and resolutions. We just have the one. Ordinance 2025-02 to amend the budget ordinance of 2024-08 to reflect the mid-year adjustments to the city's 2025 fiscal year budget. I need a motion so we can speak on that.
So moved. Can we get a second?
Alderman Edmonds, can I
Oh,
get a
sure.
second on that?
I'm sorry,
Great.
second.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mayor Clary,
Appreciate that.
used to be, not anymore.
Yeah. So it's been typical for the past 4 years. We try to group the needs that we determine in between budget cycles into one big amendment. We did have earlier this fiscal year, we did have one other amendment to the budget. But what was happening before Jesse decided to do this, and it's a very good idea, was every meeting we were having a budget amendment. It almost made our actual budget senseless. And so having this is much more helpful. What we do is we talk to the staff, obviously the board and constituents, and see what did we miss in the fiscal year budget that we can't wait another 6 months to deal with. And that's sort of the focus of that, is what is it that really needs to be taken care of right now that can't wait. And so I think I emailed my priorities to y'all a couple weeks ago as far as making sure that we fully fund some of the projects that we had, making sure that we address any urgent needs, and making sure that we deal with any personnel situations. And then let's look at some situations where maybe we have some revenue that comes in that there's more of a want, but it's still a significant want. And so that's what you've got in front of us. Is we had probably in the neighborhood of, help me out, how many do we have, Tamara? 80 ideas? So we ended up with 50. Or was
Oh,
that
yeah.
50? Oh, you're right. So how many did we actually discuss?
Almost double this.
Okay. And so Jesse and I and
What is
Tamara,
double?
I'm sorry?
What is double?
Doubles in the neighborhood of probably about 90 to 100.
thank you.
Okay. So Jesse and Tamara and I, we reached out to staff, we reached out to aldermen, and sort of got a better idea of what it is that we're looking at. Tamara developed a better idea of what our revenue is going to look like, and felt conservatively the number that she came up with increased revenue for the total fiscal year. And that was really our constraint right there, is we didn't want to go into a deficit situation by any means. But at the same time, if there's services out there that are being expected, as well as some services that we are deficient in, we need to address that. And so we labeled them A, B, and C, and we were able to work to include all of A. We got to the B pluses, and that's pretty much where we ended. This involves money not just from the general fund, but from the PIP fund. We also have some revenue coming in for some of these expenses. Using some money in stormwater, because we had a storm. We see that stormwater is going to come in ahead of what we anticipated revenue. And what else?
A slight adjustment on State Street Aid and a little bit in the PIP fund as
There we go.
well.
Yeah, slight adjustment, State Street Aid, and then, like I said, a little bit of adjustment in the PIP fund also. So this is what we came up with.
Interest earnings as well.
Yes, that's true too. So this is what we feel like were the highest priorities that demanded our attention mid-year. There were some items that we felt weren't really appropriate for mid-year, but are very appropriate for 2 months from now, and we start determining what next year's fiscal year budget is going to be. The biggest one, the biggest expense in this is to address a problem we have with police retention and police recruitment. We are, I sent out a table for you all today that was updated from a table that we had a couple weeks ago that shows how we're doing with police recruitment and retention. We are really in a crisis situation right now, in that what makes Hendersonville very attractive is at risk of being lost. In the past 2 days, I had 2 conversations with folks. One was somebody who moved here for just a little while, and they were delighted by the police response they have for something that was pretty minor. The other was a person who lived in Maryland. His daughter lived in Madison, and when they decided to move here, it was no question where they're going to move. They're going to move to Hendersonville because every time they had come to Hendersonville as a visitor, first thing they saw when they came to the city was a police officer. And I said that is very, very intentional. The presence of a police officer has a negative impact on crime. There's no doubt about it. It's going to reduce crime, and it also helps us catch the fools who come here to commit crimes. And that's very, very important to me that we continue to do that. The problem is that we're losing officers, and we're having a harder time recruiting them. We have, Jesse, can you help me out here a little bit? Thank you. That's what I need to know. So currently we have 16 vacancies among our police officers. We have 4 that are in the process of getting on the road. Hopefully all 4 of those will stay with us. If all 4 of them do, we are still lacking 12. So that's why I feel like we need to look at the pay. We did a pay study about a year and a half ago. We found out that we were below average with police officers. Every other department, we were at average or above. And I don't think it's a coincidence that our pay is below average, and we're at 16 fewer officers than we need to be at this point right now. There are certainly other things that we can do, and we're looking at those when we get to the full budget that will help retain all of our employees. And we look at those every year when we start talking about retirement. We start talking about benefits, but we have an urgent need to increase pay. And I'll tell you, the reason that is the most important component for retaining and recruiting police officers is because when we lose them, that's the number one thing they talk about, is they go somewhere else because of better pay. There are other items, but that is the number one. So do y'all have any questions for me? Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of questions, because one of the questions I've got is, this is not your typical mid-year budget review, correct?
It's pretty typical as far as dealing with urgencies.
With urgencies,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
But then this 10%,
That is not typical.
not typical?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we decide to implement this 10%, when does that take effect?
Hold on, Jesse.
It would take effect after we pass the second ordinance. So we would specify, we kind of wanted to wait to see what the board had to say tonight. We will come with a more specific date, but it would be after the second reading of the ordinance at the earliest.
So with this being a mid-year review, we have 6 more months down the road to take a look at the real budget, or the annual budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, so for instance, what did we get last year? What did our police officers get last year?
Ooh, help me out, y'all.
It was a COLA, was it 3%
Yeah, everyone just got a
COLA?
COLA last year. So it was a COLA across the board for all employees.
And was there nothing else?
No.
Not specific for police officers.
Not specific? What was the general, okay, as an employee, as a Hendersonville employee, what did everyone receive?
3%.
COLA only?
Yes.
There was no other raise?
You get a merit raise, so
Merit raise, that's what
yeah, you can get a merit raise if you're not topped out on your salary. So we have 17 steps, and as you progress up through your steps, when you do your annual evaluation, if you're at a meets or above on your annual evaluation, you get to move up 2.5%, which is 1 step on the salary grade until you're topped out. So once you get to the top of your salary range, then you can't go up anymore because it's topped out. But everyone who's not topped out gets 2.5% if they're meeting expectations.
In every department.
In every department? Okay.
And that's what creates the salary ranges within a position, right? So a police officer or a fireman is not paid X, they're paid a range. And that range is, from one amount at the bottom to another amount at the top end of the range.
Okay, well, that's all I have for now. Thank you. Didn't mean to hog the room.
A clarifying question, if I may.
Okay.
Mr. Eckenroth, you had mentioned that I want to get something clear and some clarity around when raises were given. So you were, Mr. Alderman Bergdorf was mentioning that last year, but when did, the study was done in 2023, right? And at that point in time, when that was presented to BOMA, what happened at that point in time, and when did that happen? What was given to all employees? What was given to other departments, not including other departments? And when was that done?
Sure. Jason, if you wouldn't mind coming up just in case I get my dates wrong, but so I'm going to go off memory. When we did that salary study, it went and looked at all departments. Basically, what we found is that most departments were in the median range for the agencies that we selected. So we selected agencies that were similar to us, either in size, geographically similar. And so we looked at those cities and we compared across all departments, how do our salaries compare to the salaries of those other agencies? We didn't really see anything out of the ordinary. What we saw is that the bottom end of the pay scale wasn't quite as competitive. The top end was more competitive. That's one of the reasons we eliminated the bottom step to raise everyone's pay up 2.5%. Between PD and fire, PD has 155 employees and fire has 122. So those ones, they did a little bit differently because there's some rank and file positions that they can look at very specifically. So they took a section of those positions, not your upper management, but they took fire and police in the more rank and file positions, and they compared them directly to other agencies. And so what we found, I think it was 10.8%. PD was below market at that point. Fire was above market, I think 2% based on the study. So BOMA recommended a 5% increase in pay to the police department as the only department that really got a bump up in pay. And it was 5% for some positions, and then it was a graduated scale. It went down to like 2.5%, I think, for lieutenants. And then I think for commanders and above, there was no increase, if I got that correct. Then across the board for all city departments, every city employee got a 6% cost of living, a COLA increase. So that year, PD got 11% for most of the positions. Right. The upper management positions either got 2.5% or they just got the COLA like every other city employee did.
And this was done the beginning of fiscal year 24, so
Yes,
last
sir.
July? Okay. So just to be clear,
Oh, 2 Julys ago.
So,
Beginning of fiscal year 24 would have been July 2023.
23?
Yeah.
Right.
But-
So not quite 2 years ago. Year and a half.
18.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
Hey, can I add something to that, Alderman Evans?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I proposed to the board to not go the full 10%, 10.8, okay, to catch the police up was because we just didn't have the money. Because I wanted to, but we just didn't have the money to get them there, knowing that sometime in the future we needed to do that.
Okay. All right. So, so thank you for that. Just wanted to clarify that in the beginning of 2023, which is fiscal year 24, everybody got a 6%. Police, for the most part, got an additional 5%. And then going off of what your answer to Alderman Bergdorf is that for this fiscal year, it was just the straight COLA 3% for everyone, correct? Okay, thank you. So if I may, I'm just going to read what I wrote because I've really thought a lot about this over the last few days. So I hope you'll indulge me just for a few minutes. So good evening and good to be with you this evening. I'm just going to read this because this is from my heart. My comments are not meant to be divisive, nor are they to be construed as being one side over another. I'm not concerned about things being equal or the same, but I do want to be fair. I do not want to pit one department against another department. When it concerns the livelihoods of the people who serve our city so diligently and valiantly, I don't care. I don't take my role as being an alderman lightly. I've given this much thought, and as I know others have, mine's just one opinion. Thank you to Jesse and the team for sharing with me the PACE study, which was done in 2023 concerning the police and fire departments, our public safety teams. It was determined at the time that our fire department as a whole were slightly above other comparable cities, albeit just a few percentage points. Our police department was significantly under by 10 to 11%. For what I understand, BOMA gave a 6%, which we already determined that, to all city employees, and at the same time provide the police department another 5%, to hopefully begin a correction of our police force pay scales comparable to other like agencies. So I can appreciate that. And I do love the fact that we go through the exercise of doing the comparables, to doing the studies and everything. So here's some other thoughts I had. Within the current mid-year budget adjustments for fiscal year 25, there's another 1% COLA for all staff and another 10% on average for the police department. I'm conflicted in what I think we need to do to adjust the police department's salaries, but I cannot do it in good conscience without considering other departments as well. Some other thoughts or factors. I consider mid-year budget adjustments, this is just my opinion as a 42-year finance professional, mid-year budget adjustments to be reserved for emergency-type expenses, corrections to oversights from the budget, or one-time expenditures when we exceed revenue projections. Normally, one would not consider budget adjustments for fixed expenses like salaries and the benefits which go along with the salary adjustments, and certainly not to the extent of 10%. While we know hiring and retention are real issues with the police department, they're probably something to be considered in other departments as well. Those are probably across the board. I do think there's more of an issue with the police department with the retention, but I think there may be other mitigating factors as well. I'm not going to go into what those might be. So how do we solve this problem without breaking the bank or risking a morale issue with other departments? I think that's a real issue. I agree that part of a solution to hiring better candidates and more candidates is better pay, but it's also providing good benefits, a great working environment, and the opportunities for advancement. So we do need to address better pay. But at the same time, if retention is an issue, I don't think you necessarily solve it by pay, not pay alone. That might be part of it, but you have to consider other factors as well. I believe the Bridge program can be a great retention tool for our public safety officers. If they're in the Bridge program and other neighboring departments don't have to, if other neighboring departments or agencies don't have that benefit, then that person loses that benefit if they leave our city and go to another agency without a Bridge program. The Bridge program could also ensure the safety of our older and seasoned public safety team. So I have some other thoughts about what we might consider, but I'll bring that up at a later time. But that's just kind of my thoughts at this point in time, where I feel, and I'll turn it over to someone else.
Do you have something to add?
Well, no, not right now.
Okay.
Please, I'll take my turn.
Okay.
I'll wait.
So, Mr. Mayor or Mr. Eckenroth, can you shed some light? How did we get into this situation? Because Mayor, you had mentioned that our other staff departments are at par with the other areas, but our police are so much lower. So how did we get into that situation?
So keep in mind that we compare police to police, other police departments, fire to other fire departments, our accountants to other accountants of cities, our planners to other planners in other cities. So there's not really an average of what a city employee makes or an average of what a new employee makes. It's average of this department compared to the average of another city's department, or in the case of police, average of what they pay at Nashville Airport for security, average of what they pay at the county, at THP, at the FBI, at Secret Service, at the comptroller's office in Nashville. So the police officers, when we start looking at other agencies, we're not just talking about cities. We're talking about who is it, what agencies are they leaving to go to? And so those are the ones that we have to keep in mind. And then 2019, 2020 came. There was nobody protesting against city accountants or firefighters or other city staff. The protest and the city employees that were disparaged nightly were police officers. And I talk all the time with our new police officers that come in, and a lot of them are single, a lot of them are just married, and their spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend, I know, in the next couple of years, after they've started with us, is going to ask them, is this really what you want to do? When they see the reports that we've seen over the past 5 years about the way that some people feel about police officers, undeservedly so, it's distressing to families to realize that you may face charges for doing exactly what your job is, and the possibility that you will go to jail for doing your job. And that's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons how we got to where we are now. There are just fewer people that want to go into police work. There are fewer people willing to stay in police work. And as I've said many times, we don't hire everybody that comes in. We want to hire not just good officers, but good people. And that's part of the other reason that we're in this situation, is that we're very picky, we're very choosy. That's part of the reason that we're down 16 officers right now. But as I said, there are other factors to why some folks are leaving. But the number one item that I see on the PAF, the forms that they sign as they leave, and the number one item that I see on exit interviews is pay. That's the reason they leave and go somewhere else, or go into the private sector. We had somebody leave to be an insurance investigator not too long ago, and it's pay. That's the number one reason I see. That's how we got here.
Okay. I have a couple other comments on this, but I want to open up the floor first to the other aldermen who are sitting up here with us. I value your input, so I want to hear from you as well. Who wants to go first?
Here, let me.
Alderman Goodwin.
There we go. You're good.
I hate to correct the mayor, but let me correct one thing that, in my research, we are 16 positions down, but as far as manpower, people that can work the roads, 16 is an incorrect number. We are 31 down of people that can work the road. That includes 16 of the positions that are not filled. 3 are deployed on military, 2 are on light duty, and we have 10 trainees that are not ready for the road. So our actual number of officers that are not on the road are 31. And I will let you know that I was called today, and 4 of our officers have been made offers to another agency. So you can add 4 to the 31. So we are up to 35 positions.
Thank you, Alderman Goodwin. Alderman Dixon?
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the mayor.
I'm about to cough. Just a second.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay, go ahead.
Take a drink of water.
That's what caused it.
Okay, sorry. I have a question for you. Tonight's the first time I heard that part of this adjustment is for 1% for all employees. Can you speak a little bit about what that's about, and is there a crisis there?
We don't feel like there's a crisis in general among the staff. However, the cost of living should have been, what, last year? Hold on, Jesse. There we go.
It was 2.9 last year.
Yeah, so typically the city tries to follow Social Security CPI.
Yes.
And over the last couple of years, we're 3% below that. So this helps correct a little bit of that.
Okay, that's fair.
That's where that 1% came from.
That's fair. Well, I will say this. As far as we have exceptional first responders, we know that. That is why my husband and I chose Hendersonville 10 years ago. We were looking in Williamson County for weeks and weeks, and I just wasn't happy with what I was hearing and seeing, but everybody thinks that they're the greatest area, and my realtor, who's from there and knew nothing about Hendersonville, said, you know, you may want to go up to Hendersonville because I hear that there's 8 police officers to every 1 resident. And I was like, what? And she goes, I'm just joking. I'm exaggerating, but people feel that way. People feel that way. And we need to keep our exceptional PD with us and good people. And I'm ready to move on. I will support 10%. I've got to think about the 1%, but if you tell me that we need that now before our fiscal year, our next fiscal fiscal year budget review, which is only in 6 months. I'll think about that. But as for the police department and vetting, we don't want to pit them against each other. I totally understand that. And I think it's reasonable to say that in 6 months, we can evaluate fire. I think it's reasonable to say that. So I just want everyone to know that I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Dixon. So anyone else have any comments? Alderman Collins?
And what was our staffing, were we fully staffed for HPD in 2018?
Since I've been here, we have not been fully staffed in HPD. And I appreciate your email. It's just going to take me some time to answer the past 10 years.
Sure, of course.
We have not been fully staffed in HPD since 2016, at least.
Is it appropriate to ask Chief Jones if he recalls when we were last fully staffed?
He would have the answer to that, or at least probably the best person to hear it. You got it.
I'm not really sure the last year that we were fully staffed. It's been quite some period of time. I know that just last year, in 2023, we lost 15 officers resigning to take other jobs, whether it was outside of law enforcement or inside law enforcement. We've had, I believe, 16 resignations this year. Some of those outside law enforcement, the mayor mentioned one that went to be an insurance investigator.
Chief, you mean 16 in 2024?
I'm sorry, sir?
You mean 16 in 2024?
Yes, sir.
Not 2025?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2024.
Yeah, I knew.
And we had 15 in 2023, basically the same reasons. The issue is, this is one of the first times ever that we're in a position that we're not at least on par with our surrounding agencies. Hendersonville always paid more than, even if it wasn't a lot, but they paid more than TBI, THP, the county, Gallatin, Mount Juliet, and that's not the case anymore. We're woefully behind those agencies at this point.
I know you can't answer this on the fly, and we're going to
I
get
sure
numbers
try.
together, but in your memory, you've been with the HPD for a long time, and I don't expect you to remember all of this.
39 years.
So what would you say the average vacancies per year? Because we haven't been fully staffed for quite a while.
So it fluctuates. I can tell you that in years past, probably prior to 2018, 2019, the vacancies were smaller, but we always had vacancies. So we were continually looking to hire, but that is a product of less people wanting to come into law enforcement, and of those who do apply, many of them cannot pass the background check.
Yeah.
So they want to come into it, but they can't meet our standards. So the people that that we have on staff today, those are those people who were able to meet that standard, and it's not a low standard, I can tell you. So they met that standard, and many of them have stayed with the department. But some, whether it's a family move, a change of careers, they've gone into other lines of work or to other agencies for one reason or another. And, the big issue we keep hearing now, and when we look at these other agencies, it's pay related. And I believe one of the aldermen mentioned, other things like benefits and those things. Those are all important too. We can't ignore those. But, starting on the front end, or if they're leaving us to go somewhere else that's immediately going to pay them more money for doing the same thing, that puts us in a very tough situation.
Thank you. This is a finance committee meeting, so we're focusing on finance at this point. But I will say that hearing that HPD hasn't been fully staffed in a long time, I want to learn outside of the context of this what we can do to change that. And also, at the same time, not having enough information, I'm also thinking through some of the comments that Alderman Evans made and really thinking what else do we need to do, because throwing money at it will probably help, but it's not the whole solution. And if we haven't been fully staffed in a really long time and we look at that historic information, maybe we don't include some of those positions in the budget to help pay for the raise. Like if we have had 4 vacancies for 15 years, that's $200,000 that we could put towards raises for people who are here.
And that fluctuates. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
we may have, vacancies only part of the year, and then as we hire somebody or somebody else leaves, then it changes again. But it's a continual cycle that we see. We hired people on, they wanted to stay 20 or 30 years. That's not always the case nowadays.
Yeah.
And so it is, the last 2 years specifically have been tougher as far as keeping people on board, because they're always looking at these other agencies. Our biggest competition used to be Metro Nashville Police Department. When I started with Hendersonville, we paid $1,000 a year more than Metro Nashville PD did. That changed. But we do have some officers that will accept less pay because they don't want to work for that large agency. We have other officers that say, hey, I'm there for the pay, so that's where they're going, or they go to somewhere else that's paying that kind of money.
Thank you. A lot to think about.
Thank you, Alderman Collins. Anyone, Alderman Garten?
Yeah, so just really a comment or something that I would like to note is, we're talking about being down 16 officers, or maybe it's 30 that are actually off the road right now. But something, and I think Jesse may cover this in our Bowman report tonight, but what I've noticed also is our police calls for service year to date are up almost 45%, which to me is kind of alarming to be that short.
I believe we started including something else in that report. Is that right?
Is there
Different metrics.
Yeah.
different metrics? Okay.
Yeah.
And Jesse will probably cover that tonight, what that is.
Or Mr. Eckenroth, what was on there before? What's the difference now?
Hold on. There you go.
Chief Jones is the difference. Because Chief
It's all your
Miller
fault.
didn't want to add the calls where an officer, like if an officer sees someone with a flat tire and they'll call themselves out of service, that wasn't included under Chief Miller. He didn't want to show those. Chief Jones does. So that's where we're seeing that delta with the percentage.
Okay.
It's still on call. I think we have about 29,000 calls this year compared to 20,000 calls last year. That's a big
29 to
difference.
20.
But those are a lot of those self-initiated calls where an officer is pulling themselves off the
Okay,
roadway.
which still takes manpower, so we still need
Yes, ma'am.
to, okay.
Thank you, Alderman Garten. Alderman Robertson.
Yes, Chief, would you please come forward? I got a question to ask you. So, we've heard tonight that the chief has said that all of our peers around us are paying more than we're starting our salaries. So, Mayor, when this comes to the board, would you make that part of the record?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Some kind of current analysis of the peer agencies, so that we can look at that. So, Chief, we have 16 vacancies, empty open positions
Yes,
right now. And when you fill those positions, you advertise for applicants, correct?
yes, sir.
What's your history of being able to attract the applicants that you think are qualified for the job at the current pay? Are we having trouble attracting the officers because of pay?
That's a huge consideration. We did have an officer that came and looked at us, who's a certified officer in the state of Tennessee. When he saw what the starting pay is, he said, I appreciate you guys taking the time and talking to me. Our recruiters met with them, but they decided they were going to go to Murfreesboro because of the pay difference. So you know, that was the weighing factor in their mind. They had people talk to them, tell them Hendersonville was a good agency to come to, but the pay difference between us and Murfreesboro caused them to decide to go there. And that's a certified officer, so unlike an officer that's not certified, that has to go through a lot more training, you know, that a certified officer is somebody we can get through training fairly quickly and get them out on the street being productive and helping these guys answer calls. So, you know, that's, and that's with, you know, they know coming in. We do get applicants, but again, when we go through the testing process and then we start the background process, that's where we drop some. So we're having people apply, and they come in and test, and then of those that pass the entrance exam, then the pre-hire testing, they go on to do their background check before we interview them, and that's where we drop several.
So we're having trouble with applicants, getting a good pool of applicants.
Because if
fill our
there's somebody that's in there looking at that, and they're looking at us, and they're looking at 3 other agencies, and we're the lowest paying of those 4, and they don't have any commitment to any agency at that point, they're more than likely they're going to try to go to the one that's going to pay them more money.
Yeah. I think BOMA kind of saw the handwriting on the wall at the last budget, and BOMA unanimously approved a $2,500 bonus, sign-on bonus, which is not much. I think other agencies offer maybe up to $5,000 bonus. But did that help some in? I mean, we've used all that up, correct?
We did, yes, sir. And we had, I think there, even though we were pushing that out on social media, our recruiters were putting that out to people. They were putting it out on Instagram. I think we had 1, maybe 2 that mentioned that bonus when they came to us.
Well,
So
that's good information to have.
even with our efforts of putting it out there, you know, I think, and that's a great thing, that helps, but that's a one-shot deal.
Yes.
And so what they're
Yes.
looking at is, what about the rest of this year and next year and the year after?
Yeah, several board members tonight have mentioned that the mid-year budget, in my perspective, you need to be very wary about approving expenses that are recurring, except in emergencies. And in my view, based on the numbers that I'm seeing and the numbers, what they may be in the near future, I think, Mayor, we are in an emergency. I'll have many more questions to ask when this comes before BOMA. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson.
May I?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
please.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
One of the things I do want to let everybody that's here know that financial responsibility weighs heavy on those of us who are up here at this point. We must make ends meet in our personal lives and our business lives, and we're charged with making ends meet with the city as well. That being said, I don't know that I can support a 10% rate increase without including all public safety officials, public safety staff. If we're going to go ahead and talk about police, I don't want to separate the police from the fire. I believe the fire department needs that support as well. I'm sure your brothers in blue would agree with you. It's a team effort. Not one of you is out there by yourselves. Not one of you, you always have a partner. Fire always waits on police. Police has a job that fire can do. Police can't do some jobs fire can do. It's hand in hand. I think that we need to back this up a little bit. Consider other options that may be available to us rather than just throwing money at it. Just because this is a mid-year budget review. Now we look at the dollar figure. The dollar figure at this point is only $525,000. No, I'm sorry, $501,000. I need better glasses. For 6 months. Coming up in July, it's going to be $1 million. And that's going to hit the budget again. So right now it looks like it's doable. But I think that we need to do something to support all of our public safety officials, not just the police. And do not separate them from the fire. Those are my 2 cents on that one. And there's other things. Work history. Let's talk about modern work history. How many jobs have you had?
You don't want to know. Too many.
Right, okay. I've been hired and fired too many times already, or hired and quit too many times. In my estimation, our modern workforce does move around from time to time to time. It would be nice to remain at one department or one agency or one company for 40 years. My sons move around from time to time to time. So the opportunities that are available to other officers or other public safety employees to go from one agency, we already talked about going to a insurance agent, to be an investigator for an insurance agent. That's an attractive gig. I think I would understand that. I would understand the change. Better hours, probably a little bit better environment, and the clientele might be a little bit better as well. Am I wrong? No, I don't think so. So that's a modern work history we're looking at. We're going to have, I believe we're going to have staff who are going to move from point A to point B. They're going to find a better environment that suits them and their needs and the needs of their family. I understand. Money is the first thing that they see. It's just like perfume. It's the first thing that you see. It's the first smell you get that in your nostrils and you think, well, that's pretty good. Then it invites other people to investigate the environment, investigate the police department, investigate the city. Then you have the opportunity to make the decision if that's the environment and city that's going to work for me or that's not. But today's workforce, I believe, are much more transient than we were in the past. I think that we need to have more comprehensive plan in order to retain staff, not just money at this point. So those are my 2 cents on that. I think that we need to really study this rather than just add 10% raises, 7.5% raises, and 2.5. We are charged with the financial health of the city and the safety. They go hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Goodwin, did you have something to add?
I just want to say, I don't know if this is the time to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't want firefighters that are jumping around from city to city. I don't want police that are jumping around city to city. The city invests a lot of money in training these people, getting these people going, paying for all these schoolings. I know our fire guys, they work together to be a cohesive team. You don't want people coming in and out. And I know our police officers don't want people coming in and out. And I don't think people jump all the time just for the dollar. We've got to get our money up and keep these people and do things with our benefits and all to keep them. But to say that people just move around job to job, I know a lot of the people, and we've got several firemen that have been here over 30 years. We want to keep people in our city. That's what makes people come here. So I totally disagree with that and think that we need to do something to work on this for both of our public safety departments.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Goodwin. Thank you all for being here today. This is the biggest Finance Committee meeting we've ever had, am I right? Good to see you all here. We've never had it in this room as long as I've chaired, which hasn't been long.
I'm going to vote on this.
Yeah, we do need to get voting on this. I do just want to ask, this is a mid-year. I understand there's a discrepancy, and I want to make sure you all are clear. I value both our fire and our police. I really appreciate all you guys do for our city. I feel safer living here. That's why we moved here 15 years ago, was because how safe this town is. But I also want to create something that works for the city, works for all of our staff and doesn't create a divide amongst our different departments. And I feel like that's somewhat what this does. So I would like for us to consider other things besides just money to throw at this. Alderman Evans mentioned the bridge plan. I'm a big supporter of the bridge plan. I wanted to discuss that further at our next upcoming budget, but this might be a prime time to discuss that as being an additional benefit that we can offer all of our public safety in a new package with the additional funds that we have received in this. So, can you bring look at that and bring an alternative option with the bridge included in that, and maybe even using the same funds that we're offering here, but a bump in salary for all staff, and then additionally the bridge to offer to our public safety.
See, I can bring some options, but I want Jesse to address that. When this goes to the board, I can certainly bring some options if we look at changing, if we're looking for changes. But Jesse, you want to address it?
Yeah, unless the mid-year budget review is pushed back for probably months, there's not enough time to go through all that's required with the bridge program. Bridge program requires all of public safety to hop on board. Mm-hmm. I think fire's pro bridge. I don't know that PD's pro bridge. We haven't really gotten to the depths of it with PD. But it would take time. I mean, it's not something you take on lightly. Once you implement a bridge program, every public safety employee has to be in the bridge program. So it's not something you could just do for one department and not the other department. There's a lot of considerations. Right off the bat, it's about 3.5% that's added to TCRS. So we're probably, around $1 million or so on an annual basis for that, So, it's something we can absolutely talk about if that's what the board would like us to do. We can. I just don't think we could do it adequately in time to address the mid-year budget.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, does someone want to make a motion on this ordinance? Well, we can make a motion of no vote if we want to and pass it to the board for consideration, or we can make a vote to approve with changes.
Mayor, may I address this with you?
Sure.
Since you brought it before the board here, may I suggest pulling out the raise piece and then voting on the other pieces?
I can bring that as an option when we come back in 2 weeks.
So we vote on the
so
raises separately?
Yeah, so once it's put together as an ordinance, a committee can't change it and the sponsor can't change it. Otherwise, you have to start the whole process again. But I can, when we come back, I can tell you what that would look like in 2 weeks.
And we go before the whole board on that? That's fine. I'll make a motion to vote on the
No,
ordinance.
we actually have a motion from when we started the
do?
discussion. You made a motion and Evans,
Thanks for
Alderman
keeping track of
Evans
that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
seconded.
Okay, so what is the motion though? Do we want to approve this? Are you offering to approve it or not approve, or do you want to just
Well,
move it to
I'll tell you
one
what we
with
need
no
to
vote?
do. I think we just really need to go ahead and have this beat up in front of the whole board. And so we'll approve it to, and mine, are you okay with that, or you want, it's up to you.
I'm not
Well, either way, it's going to the whole board.
sure. I'll just voice it this way. I'm not exactly sure what the process and the procedure is, but for me, I'd rather not vote for it and ask the staff go back and rework the numbers to consider some of the things and give us options on these other things.
So we can
And
vote.
if that means that it has to go to BOMA, and we hash it out there, then that's fine. But for me, tonight, I can't vote for.
Well, we can
As it's
vote no
presented.
on it to not approve it.
Well, that's just me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I also, Mayor, I also believe that there's some things in here that can probably be cut a little bit more. I believe it's like a $2 million discrepancy, but we're using some money out of contingency, or out of reserves, is that right?
Out of our infrastructure reserve, we're using it to spend on some infrastructure.
Okay.
If you want to give
Is
me a
there-
list of those, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, let me review those further. I've got some notes here. We're running out of time, but I'll bring those to you separately. Is that all right?
That's absolutely helpful.
Okay,
Send it to the
great.
board with negative approval,
So
with negative hearing.
I would agree with both of you that there's some things in here that, especially with the raises, that's the primary piece where I need some clarification. I have some issues with it. I'd say we just vote to pass this to BOMA with no vote,
With no recommendation.
no recommendation.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I'm good with that.
Great. All right, all those in favor of that? Aye. Okay. All right, thank you. Let's move on to, we have 5 minutes, so can we rush through these items? Okay. Other agenda items, discuss and receive the file 2024 annual comprehensive financial report.
We have our auditors here from Craft CPA to give a real
Thank
brief
you all for
update.
coming. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us a few minutes at your meeting. My name is Ken Youngstead. I'm with Craft CPAs. I'm here with Julie Evans, Senior Manager with our firm, who led our engagement team for the through the course of your June 30, 2024 audit. Here to give you a brief but good report on the results of the audit. So really, and I believe you do have these 2 documents in front of you. I'm just going to make a couple of comments, and then Julie will give you a few observations on the financial statements themselves. But there were no new accounting policy changes or anything new that lacked authoritative guidance. I think things were straightforward. As we usually do, we had great assistance from your team. Thank you, Tamara, and others who helped us along the way during the audit process. I think everything went smooth there. And you know, otherwise, I think I may just turn it over to Julie to just make a few comments about the financial statements themselves. And then one of the main reasons we want to be here is just to be available for your questions as well. So, Julie?
So were there any issues? I guess that's our biggest
There were
question.
not any issues.
They will be at the
We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at
Today.
pages 1 through 3, which are in there, is the audit opinion, which says you got a clean, unmodified audit opinion, which is the kind of opinion you want. And then when you turn to the very back of the statements as well, starting on page 103, there are 2 other audit opinions that are in there. One's internal control over financial reporting, and then there's another one over the specific federal grant program that we audited, and both of those, we didn't have any findings to report to you all either. So there is a nice, clean page in the very back that says that there were no
Good.
findings. So
Well,
this
and
is kind of where
you've
you want
reviewed
to
this, right,
where you
Tamara?
want to look.
Okay.
So.
Ad nauseam.
And Tamara's reviewed it. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you at BOMA. Unfortunately, we don't have much time right now. So,
Understandable.
but thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
The sales tax analysis.
I think did you grab the
I
copy I
did not.
left you?
I did not get. There we go. Thank you. Do you have your a copy?
I
Here.
can,
Okay.
Oh, you good? Okay, because I have extra
There we
copies.
go. There we go.
Really briefly on the sales tax, because we only have about 1 minute left.
Yes.
Local option sales tax as well as the state share sales tax are continuing to come in at a healthy rate. We're looking very, very good for the
Okay.
year end.
I see about 106 to 107% of budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hotel motel is continuing to be slightly lower than what we were hoping compared to last year. We'll just keep monitoring that. I'm not sure why the hotel rooms are renting at lower rates, or if they've reduced the per night stay rate or something, but the taxes are coming in a little bit low on the hotels compared to how they were.
When we get those dollars, they say how many rooms or how many nights they were rented out. Is it? And it's the same amount. It's just at a lower rate.
I haven't done that analysis. I'm assuming that there's some changes there related to that, but I'm not positive.
All right.
We're continuing to invest. As you can see, the interest rates are coming down a little bit, but we're still on target to exceed by about $300,000 what our budget was for the investment earnings. Stormwater fund still has a healthy fund balance. The revenues are coming in as we anticipate. They come in alongside property taxes, so by the end of February, we'll have received the majority of those revenues for the year. And then our PIP fund is also coming in strong. It's coming in strong along with the local option sales tax. This year-end estimate there does include the impact of the rate on groceries reducing effective
Right.
February 1st. So that is factored into this
Okay.
calculation
Oh,
for
okay.
the end of the
Okay.
year.
Great.
And then, we're making
Yep.
some progress on some of our projects that we've got going there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Motion to
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.